Okay. Start shiur number 12 in Choshen Mishpat. Part of the shiur is going to be on things that we learned over the week before last week, and part is going to be on what we learned last week. So it's going to be Sa'ifim Daled, Hey, Zayin, Yud, and Tesvav. And Daled is connected to Yud also. So a bunch of these Sa'ifim are interconnected, so even though it's something which was learned 2 weeks ago, something that you learned this week is going to be connected to it also. Sa'if Daled deals with water damage, certain elements of water damage. But it's basically the din is talking about when you have one person living in the first floor, one person living in the aliyah, which is the second floor, and the roof is on top of the second floor, and then the water from the one that's living upstairs goes to the one that's living downstairs, and it causes him damage. So the Mechaber over there writes in Sa'if Daled that if there is no maziva is this kind of system which would absorb the water, and from there it would continue going down. So that's how it was, like a earth floor, a specific system for the water to get absorbed, and it so means it goes straight down to the guy downstairs. And it causes a hezek, then the mazik has to fix it, the one upstairs. But if there is a maziva where the water gets absorbed into it, and it doesn't go down right away, rather it goes down some time later, then the mazik is not obligated to fix it. And the Ramah brings from the Mardechai that it's not directly dependent on whether there's a maziva or not, but it depends on the amount of water. If it's a little bit of water, v'kolin la'alter, it evaporates, it disappears right away, then it's not chayav to remove the hezek. But this is even if there is no maziva. And if there's a lot of water, mayim merubim, mazikim lo tadir. It's two things. First of all, it's a lot of water, and second of all, it's constant damage. Then he has to be to fix the hezek, even if he has a maziva. Now, whether the Ramah is disagreeing with the Mechaber, the Ramah is explaining the Mechaber, that depends on certain Nizikelim explain that he's disagreeing, certain Nizikelim explain that he's just explaining the Mechaber. And the Ramah continues another din. This only applies to the water that he uses. That means there was no plumbing system then, so he would just do naguvasser and wash his hands on the floor, and the water would, or wash his dishes. So that is the ones that are a problem. But rainwater that falls on top of the aliyah, and then it goes down to the one downstairs, then the nizak is the one who has to protect himself from the damage which happens, which is caused to him. Now, say this siman, and say to a certain degree also in Sa'if Yud, which also discusses certain elements of water damage like gutters. These are very, very common halachas, very common issues, especially in places which have older plumbing systems or older houses, and the floors are not, look in New York, the floor is made from wood, so anything you pour on top will go down to the person downstairs. Sometimes it'll go straight, sometimes it'll take some time till it goes. Not like those in places which is nicer weather, so the floors are made from tile and it's not going to go through. It's cement and tile on top. Of places where it's made from wood, it's a much bigger issue. And these are common, everyday, we'll call them mini dentitis, these kinds of niske shchenim. This doesn't become into big blown dentitis, but it usually becomes a mini dentitis that people go in front of it and they have to work out the issues, whether it's with a landlord and a tenant, or a tenant is upstairs and a landlord is downstairs, or the landlord is upstairs and a tenant is downstairs. Who's responsible for what? So again, this is also another topic which you will come across many times if you're going to be dealing with these kinds of, in this field of dentitis. Now, this seif, and these machlekes in this seif, is all based on a Gemara in Maseches Bava Metzia. starts on Daf Kuf Zayin Amud Beis in the bottom, and it continues into Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. Over there, it's talking about the Gemara, the Mishnah in Kuf Zayin Amud Beis in the bottom. It says that if two people are living in a house, one lives downstairs, one lives upstairs, and part of the aliyah was destroyed, and the one who lives downstairs, the balabais, does not want to fix it. And the Mishnah over there, the Stam Mishnah, the beginning of the Mishnah says that that the person from upstairs could move into the guy downstairs, into the landlord, and tell him, I'm here until you fix my apartment. And Rabbi Yossi disagrees and says, Rabbi Yossi says that the one downstairs has to pay only the roof, that means his ceiling, and the one upstairs has to fix what's upstairs. And the Gemara then discusses the Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. The Gemara goes into discussion what Rabbi Yossi says. What's the Yesod of the Machlekes between Rabbi Yossi and the Tanakama? Who is responsible? Well, it's clear the Machlekes is who is responsible to pay for the damage that occurred upstairs. Rabbi Yossi holds that the Nizak has to distance himself from the Hezek. Al Nizak l'harchak esatzmei. And Tanakama holds that Al Mazik l'harchak esatzmei. And the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi al nizak l'harchak esatzmei. Now there are exceptions to the rule of al nizak l'harchak esatzmei. For example, in damages which are gira delay, which are direct damages caused by one person. So then you can't say that al nizak l'harchak esatzmei if there's a direct damage being done by somebody else. Over there, Rabbi Yossi will also agree that the mazik has to stop doing the hezek of gira delay. And that is what the whole discussion in all these simanim.
Well, how is the fact that he asked him to show that I just why did it show
when what?
That he's not going to be forced to talk to.
Can't hear you. What?
He's not going to be forced to talk to fix Nazila. How does it show that I'll need to
It's not. It means that if you force the one on top to fix it, it's because we say it's good a delay. If you force the one on downstairs to fix it, we say it's a nizak l'harchak esatzmei. You're talking about over here when the aliyah fell apart in Bava Metzia? Bava Metzia, well, who's the one whose house collapsed? The one upstairs. So he's the one who is the nizak. He's the one who has to pay for it. There's no mazik over here. But the nizak has to distance himself. According to the Rosh Sharif and the Rambam in Choshen in Perek Yud al Chavav, and that means the Rosh, the Rif, and the Ramban on the Gemara. Based on this Gemara over there, if somebody spills water in his house and it goes and it causes damage right away downstairs, then it's considered gira delay. Since it's considered gira delay, then he's chayev to fix the damage. And if the water gets absorbed in the maziv and from there it goes downstairs, it's no longer gira delay. And that is the shit of the Mechaber. We know the Mechaber, if the Rif, the Rosh, and the Rambam will all agree on one opinion, the Mechaber will take that opinion. And that's why, according to the Mechaber, it's dependence on the Maziva. If the Maziva is there, then it's no longer gira delay, because the water doesn't go down right away. And if the Maziva is not there, then it is gira delay. Then it is gira delay because you're pouring the water that you're pouring goes straight down. And the Ramah, who comes from the Shitta of the Mordechai, he says that gira delay is not only when there is a maziva or there is no maziva, but even if there is a maziva but there's a lot of water, it's still considered gira delay. And you could go into discussion how it's still considered gira delay because you know how much water is going to go through and you know the maziva is not going to absorb everything and it's still going to go downstairs. So it's not that the water is getting absorbed and then down the line a half a day or a day later it's going downstairs, but rather it's going through the maziva and going straight down. So therefore that could be considered gira delay. And that's how the Rivosh understands the Mordechai, that the Mordechai does not disagree on the Rif. The Rivosh in Siman Tov Kuf Yud Zayin, that's how he understands the Mordechai. He understands that it's not a disagreement, so that would also apply to the Mordechai and the Ramah, and the Ramah and the Mechaber don't disagree. But if you look in the Gra and Sifkat and Yud, he explains that there is a machlekes between the Mechaber and the Ramah. The mind of Kamina between the two is how to first of all, does the Sfardi have to follow what the Ramah Paskin's like? That's one of the biggest nafkaminas, because the only time, and we discussed it last year in Evan Arza, the only time that we say that a someone who follows the Beis Yosef has to follow the Chumras of the Ramah is only in Kololei Poskim, is only in Dinei Even HaEzer HaChamurim. Over there it's mentioned that when the Ramah is Machmir, you have to follow the Chumrah of the Ramah, but in everything else, someone who follows the Beis Yosef, the halacha, does not have to follow the Chumras of the Ramah. Now, this idea that even though the Gra says that the Mechaber and the Ramah are chaylik, if you look in Aruch HaShulchan says that it's mashma from Aruch HaShulchan that the Mechaber and the Ramah are not disagreeing. However, the Aruch HaShulchan switches what the Ramah is saying. The Aruch HaShulchan says that what the Ramah is saying is when there's a lot of water, there's a little water, when the Ramah is saying there's a difference between a lot of water and a little water is only when there is a maziva. When there's no maziva, the Aruch HaShulchan actually changes what the Ramah says, and the Taz is the same idea also. When there's no maziva, according to the Ramah, it's always gira delay, even if it's a little bit of water. The difference between a little bit of water and a lot of water is only in when there is a maziva. Then we say it's not gira delay if it's a little bit of water. When there is a maziva, and it is gira delay when it's a lot of water. So that's how, because he holds it's only moisif, like the Rivash, that he's only moisif. The Mordechai is only moisif on the previous opinion, and he's basically restricting when a person is he's expanding the gira delay and restricting when a person is potter. And the Aruch HaShulchan says that the words afilu b'loi maziva that appear in the Ramah don't appear in the same Darkei Moshe. So the Darkei Moshe, he says the same thing. The Ramah, when he wrote it on the Torah, he didn't write the words afilu b'loi maziva. So therefore, the Aruch HaShulchan doesn't take that afilu b'loi maziva. If it's a little bit of water, the person is potter. Now the Rosh, who he follows the shit, who he goes according to the same as the Rif, like we said before, that it depends if there is a maziva or there is no maziva, because that's the definition of gira delay or not gira delay. He has a tshuva in Klal Kuf Ches Seif Katan Yud, where he explains the shit of the Mordechai a little bit different. He says, what's the svara of the Mordechai? That even when there is no gira delay, we have a different yesod. The Mordechai comes up with a new yesod. It's not about gira delay or not gira delay. The Mordechai agrees that gira delay is only when there is no maziva. So why is he machman when there's a lot of water? Because he holds that if it's such a big hezek that the nizuk cannot save himself from it without a small expenditure, or that means if it's very easy for him to fix, then it's not a problem. But if it's hard for him to fix, or it's expensive for him to fix, then even though it's not gira delay, being that the nizak can't protect himself from the hezek, he's still chayav to pay for the damages. The mazik still has to be marchik his hezek. So it either means that a big hezek is still considered gira delay, or that we don't really need gira delay in such a scenario. That means that for the Mordechai, you don't need gira delay when there is a big damage which the other person below him cannot save himself from doing it. And and where how does it, So that's the thing. If you look in the Sivis, and it's in the Sivis in Biurim Sivkot and Gimel, where he brings this Rosh, it's pretty much understood from there, and also from the Taz also, that when you're talking about a small hezek, what does a small hezek mean? A small hezek means that a person has a little bit of water falling in through a certain point in his roof. What's going to be so hard for him to do? If it's a small place, then he could just put a funnel over there and make his own maziva, go out the house. It's not going to be the end of the world. Or he could just make a pipe that connects into his system. But if it's a lot of water coming in, so then he can't just put one pipe. If there's water coming in from all places, what does he have to build in his house? He actually has to build a whole roof under his ceiling. A whole roof with a gutter system. It's going to protect all the water that falls from on top, as if he's living outdoors, as if he doesn't have a roof over his head. So then it's a big expense. He has to redo his whole ceiling, create a whole new system above his head, and with a whole gutter system, and then that's a big thing, and that's when we say that the mazik, the one upstairs, has to be the one to The mazik is the one upstairs, has to fix it. If it's a big expense, the mazik has to be the one to fix it. That's exactly, but when it's a big expense, it's the same as gira delay. And therefore, ala mazik l'sakin, ala mazik l'harchak, not la nizak. The din of al nizak is only when it's a small hezek.
You mentioned this in the same svara as the Chilo Darash in the Chaf of Aleph?
Yeah. Same the Rosh is Lashitasi, he doesn't disagree with himself. But the Ramban, you have sometimes that the Ramban disagrees with himself between one place and another.
And the Mordechai takes the Rosh's
the Rosh explains the Mordechai. The Rosh was after the Mordechai. Now, why is it? What's the svara? This is Nesivos explains. What's the svara way according to the Mordechai? If it's a small hezek, you don't have to do it because the person can't live without water upstairs. So you can't make the person upstairs tell him every time you're going to pour a cup of water, you have to start worrying and build a whole system out of it. It's a small hezek. The other person could do it. You need to live. He needs to live. So each one of you figure out how to do it. But if it's a much bigger damage, then your living is causing a big damage to somebody else. Therefore, you have to fix it. And that's why the Nesivos explains that based on this, he understood why in Sif Chav the Mechaber Paskins Pshitus, that if somebody dug up a small guma is a small one in his chatzar, so the rainwater will fall over there, and then this guma has the water that's going to flow through, going to come out of it, that guma, and go into the neighbor's property, that the mazik is the one who has to fix it. That's on Sifchav, the Mechaber Paskins that. L'cha'ira, it's not a direct hezek, it's not a garmi, it's not gira delay. It's the same as a maziva. The water is in the guma, it gets soaked into the earth, and from there it's going to fall into, it's going to leak into the neighbor's basement. So why is it chayv over there? Yeah, and over here he says al nizak l'harchak asasmei when there is a maziva. So he says the reason is because over there it's a big expense for the Baal HaMartev to redo his whole basement and protect himself from all the water that's going to come in from every place. And over here, when it's a small hezek, so therefore it's not a problem. That's the difference why between there and here. It also means that basically the Nesivos also understood that the Mechaber and the Ramah don't disagree over here. Therefore the Ramah doesn't have to say anything on Sifchav. And the Mordechai and the Rif don't contradict each other; they're just complementing each other, based on this understanding of the Rosh. Now, I did mention that the Nesivos says that because a person can't live without water, right? So therefore, the person downstairs has to absorb a little bit of the trouble. If you look in the Avnei Choshen, the Avnei Choshen says that this idea that you can't live without water is the concept of dira that we mentioned in the past, that there's a difference between dira and chatzir. When a person's in a dira, there's certain in his own household, there's certain things you can't expect from somebody not to do in his own house that he's not going to be able to do elsewhere. So yes, sometimes certain azekas you are responsible for, and we did see it previously when we were discussing about the ovens. You can't expect somebody to live on cold food. Right? Not everybody is vegan and raw vegan. So you can't expect people to do this. There's certain things have to be done. So you have to. When people are neighbors, part of life is to be able to. If you have a tenant, you have to, or if you're renting from somebody, or if you're becoming a tenant by somebody else, you have to understand that you're going to absorb certain things that you will not have to absorb if you are your own boss in your own house and you have nobody else in the house. Yeah, that's how that's understood. So now, no, it's a compliment. It's just the Gra is the only one that holds the machlekes. Everybody holds it's not. So what happens if somebody lives upstairs and he has a pipe? He has the pipes. Today everybody has pipes. But the pipes that run out of a sink they go through the floor. Yeah, because that's how it goes to the sewer system. and there's a crack in the pipe. So now he's not getting any damages. The water is only flowing downstairs. It's creating a damage. So according to the mechaber, l'chayra should be fine, right? Because it's a little bit, and it's not going to go straight down to the person downstairs. The pipe is not exposed. It has to travel through the roof. It's going to take time till it goes there. According to the Rosh, so if you look according to the Nesivos, then he has to. Why? Because fixing a pipe is a big expense. You have to break the ceiling. You have to change a whole section of the pipe, etc., etc., etc. So it's a big hazard. So you have to fix it. The person upstairs has to fix it. According to the Avnei Choshen, it will depend whether the guy's living upstairs or not. If the guy's living upstairs is did it, then you could say maybe you could do it. According to the Ramah and the Shulchan, that would depend. If it's a little bit of water, then he doesn't have to fix. If it's a lot of water, he does. Depends how much is flowing out. If it's only a few drops, it's not a problem. Now, even according to the Mechaber, you could say that the hole in the pipe is also chayev, and even according to the Ramah. Why? Because you could look at the pipe as that is the maziva. So now, if you have a maziva which is broken, you can't say, "Oh, I have a half a maziva." No, I have a maziva, and I have to fix the maziva that I have. If the only issue is that the maziva has a crack in it, it's not working properly, then even according to Mechaber, should be chayev. The only time you could say is potter is if you have a proper full pipe, and then there's maybe certain things that were not perfect in it, and the water found a way to leak out of it.
How doesn't agree with that opinion that it's even if it's not get a delay, if it's big hazard, you have to fix it. If it's not big hazard.
That depends. It depends if it's Pashtus Lashon Mechaber. If you're going to follow all the Nizikelim, which hold that that everybody's interconnected.
It's the Chaf is the Mechaber. The Mechaber says that if it's
So otherwise, you're going to have another way to explain the Mechaber. If you go Pashtus Lashon Mechaber, you're going to have to find another way to explain the Mechaber over there.
Who the one that said that Mishum Dira, because we live somewhere?
The Avnei Choshen.
Wasn't that a svara on why when it's a small hezek we can expect the music to fix it?
Yeah.
So then that only applies if there's a maziba still.
Yeah. So the question is, if I have a pipe and there's only a little crack in it, and it's not exposed pipe, but it has to travel through the roof, is that considered that there is a maziva or not?
So the maziba doesn't stop the water completely from going downstairs.
No.
Otherwise, there's no discussion.
Yeah.
It just slows it down. So
It slows it down. It absorbs it and then releases it.
the svara you were just saying about maybe the pipe with a leak in it is not the maziba because it's not a real I mean a maziba that's broken. What makes
Because
it broken? The fact that water
there's a
gets
crack.
through? No,
There's a crack.
Water's always getting through the maziba.
Yeah. The question is, when is that considered? Are you doing something that's not? Having a maziva is a regular way of building a house, right? In those days. So we say that's a regular way. Everybody accepts it and deal with it. A pipe, the regular way is that a pipe is complete, not that a pipe is cracked. So the question is, could you say the same thing? Because ultimately the water
makes no water go through. Maziba allows water to come through at a slower rate.
Right, so that's the question is, if you have a complete pipe and it has a crack in it, are we going to compare it to a maziva? Because the water is not coming through right away from you. You're opening the faucet, the water is going into one pipe, and from the one pipe it's going to another pipe, and from the other pipe it's going down to the main pipe, and from the main pipe it's going to fall onto the beams that are supporting the two, and from there it's going to find a place to drip down to the guy downstairs.
Yeah.
So do we say it's like a maziva or not? That's the only question. Al pi svaretz,
I don't understand why you would say that it's like a broken maziva. Maziva has water going through. A pipe has no water going through.
Yeah, but let's say you have a maziva, there's earth over there, it's supposed to absorb the water. What happens if the kid took out a handful of earth? And it goes, there's a place for it to go down right away. Still a problem, you have to fix it.
Right.
I'm saying this one, I'm not sure which way it's going to be. I'm not telling you that you have to kabul daiti because I don't have a daiti on this matter. I can say kabul daiti on something which I'm not clear on. Now, let's move to the next part. The Rama says that if you have rainwater, the nizak has to be marchik esatzmei, right? That's the simple thing with the Rama. The Smeh right away asks a question. Sifrat and Tezvav. L'chayra, it's a contradiction to what the Rama writes in the beginning of Siman Kuf Samach Dalet. Beginning of Kuf Samach Dalet, the Rama says, Kol tzorchei agag, chayiv ba'ali, l'saken gamkein. Anything that is needed to fix the roof, the owner of the aliyah has to fix it. That means that the achrayus of the Bala Aliyah is on anything which happens on top of his head. And over here we say that if there's rain falling, it's not the responsibility of the guy upstairs. The guy downstairs has to deal with the problem. Right? And what's the svara over here? If we wouldn't know Kuf Samach Daled, the svara over here is that even though the rain is coming through you and it's falling downstairs, it's not Gira delay, it's Gira de Kuchabrichu. The Eibishter is the one that dropped the water down and it fell through. So the question really is, why in Siman Kuf Samach Daled do you are chayav to fix the roof? And you have a bunch of answers to it, and based on each one of these answers, you have a different nafkaminas, how you're going to have to deal with in specific cases, how to paskin. And the reason why you have to know all of them is because based on the case, you have to know which it fits into which category, and you'll decide which shitta to take in the specific things, unless there's a specific achra and paiskim to follow certain shitta. The Shach brings this question, and he does not give an answer, he just says, look at the Bach. However, if you look in the Bar Heitev, Sifkat Yud Gimel, he quotes an answer from the Shach. Or he understands the Shach's answer, so to speak. And he says, the Shach in Chuvas of the Rivash, and Siman Tov Kuf Yud Zayin, which is the Makir of the Ramah, it's mashma. What are we talking about over here? Take, the person upstairs, fixed whatever he has to fix on the roof. Did whatever he had to do. And the water is not circulating through the roof. That means the roof is perfect. So he did what he had to do according to Siman Kuf Samach Daled. The roof is all good. The only thing he didn't do, he didn't build a gutter. So what happens is the water is falling on the roof, and from the roof it's falling to the guy downstairs. So over there we say he's not a pesheya. It's taka not gira delay. He didn't do anything wrong. He did what he had. According to Kuf Samach Daled, he did what he had to do. He did a perfect roof. Now, so who's gira? It's gira the good shabrich, like I said before, and therefore the nizik has to distance himself from it. If the downstairs is sticking out a little bit, it's falling on him. And but the Shach over here, the Shach that we have, just says to look in the Bach. So if you look at the Bach, he says, the Bach over there says that the chiluk between Kuf Samach Daled and here a little bit different. He says, what's the Ramah talking about over here when the Nizak l'harchak is atzma? We're talking about a non-regular rain. A big rain. And therefore, the Bala Gag is not a pesheya. Yes, for regular rain, his Gag would have been able to absorb it. And under non-regular rain, the Gag was not able to absorb it, but that's not his. He wasn't a pesheya. He didn't do something which he wasn't supposed to do over here. Maybe he did build a gutter. Whatever he did whatever regular rain needs to do then. So therefore, Nizak l'harchak is atzmei. But in Kuf Samach Daled, we're talking about that the person did not do everything that he has to do. That's the way the Bach explains it. You have the Taz. The Taz also, so according to the Shach, Sai the way the Bar Heitev explains him, and Sai what he brings from the Bach, it depends. It's the difference between when will you be responsible for water that's falling off your roof when you did everything, the system well, and you're not a pesheya. Kuf Samach Daled means that you have to do whatever you have to do to make sure that your roof is properly done. So if you did what you have to do and then afterwards something happened, it's not your fault when it comes to rain. But if you did not do what you have to do, then you become a pesheya. It's your responsibility to fix. Then it's your responsibility because you did not fulfill what it says in Kuf Samach Daled, that you have to fix whatever you have to fix to make the roof proper. Taz over here has a totally different explanation on the difference between the two. And he says as follows. He says, over here we're talking about that the rainwater also that's falling into the top floor is going through the maziva. So therefore it's no longer gira delay. It gets absorbed and then goes weiter. That's how the rain is going. Kuf Samach Daled is talking about that it goes straight through. It goes straight from the roof to the aliyah, and from the aliyah it continues down, straight down, so there's no maziva to absorb it. So therefore it's not gira delay, so there's no stila between here and there. Over here is with a maziva, and that's why it's the hamshech of the beginning of the seif, that when there is a maziva it's not gira delay. And over there it's talking about that there is no maziva. That's what he says, he has to fix the roof, otherwise he would tell me you have to fix the maziva.
It should make a difference if it's not your water.
So that is the Rashba, which we're going to get to, hopefully we're going to get to later today if we have enough time for it. That's the Rashba. The Rashba holds that all the water that falls in your roof, even if you don't have in mind to be koinet, you're koinet the water, and therefore it becomes your mamoinu shehizik, but that's not what the Mechaber holds here, not what the Mechaber holds weiter, not what the Rama holds, but there is such an opinion. Why? He doesn't say, he says it's not, it goes, once it goes into your house, and everybody holds it's yours. But not mitzad memoinah, mitzad the fact that you don't have a maziva, you didn't do what you're supposed to do.
You can't call it gated delay. I mean, you come into my house, it's not gated delay just because I didn't do what I have to do.
Right, came into your house, it became yours, and then it goes weiter. That's how the Taz understands it, yeah. Now, the Taz there's a certain problem, a crucial problem with the Taz, that according to the Taz, the whole Sif would have to be written differently. Because why do you have to make a difference between you doing Nagel Wasser upstairs and going through the floor to you doing to rainwater coming through? If it's the same din, it should have just written it from the beginning, Shoifech Mayim or make Shamim. You don't have to make the differentiations. If we look in the Kesef HaKotchim in the back from the Buchacha, he says the Taka holds there's no difference between the two. And the Buchacha, the Kesef HaKotchim, all the way in the end of the Shulchan Aruch. That means there's in the back, Kesef HaKotchim. And he says, and why? He understands the question of the Smeh as a closing question. The Smeh has a problem with both. When the Smeh says, what's the difference between here and there, it's a closing question. Why does the Mechaber over there hold that there is no, it's after, it's weiter, you're going to find it. That the Smeh holds, that the Mechaber over here holds that it's al nizik l'harchak esatzmein and sif kuf samach daled, and siman kuf samach daled al mazik l'harchak esatzmein. I mean, the Rama holds here is different than there. Why is that? Because the way he understands it, says when it's written in Kuf Samach Daled that the Baal Gag has to fix everything, Baal Aliyah has to fix the Gag, it means the Gag, it means the Maziva, it means everything. Anything has to do with the water going through, whether it's for rain, whether it's for washing dishes. And over here, when it says Maziva, it seems like the responsibility is for the guy downstairs if there is a Maziva. So that's the question that the Smeh had. So based on that question, the way the Taz understood the question of the Smeh, that's how the Taz explained the answer of the Smeh, that the difference is whether there is a Maziv, or there is no Maziv. And therefore the Taz had to answer that the difference is whether it slows down when it goes down and it goes through a Maziv, and therefore it's not Gila delay, or it is. Then the Kesef HaKotchim continues and says that, but this is all talking about the olden days roof. When it was a flat roof or whatever it wasn't a pitched roof with that pushes all the water away from the house. Nothing falls on the house, but it's pitched and it goes out. So he says, happens to be in today's roofs when it's pitched and everything is done. So the pitched roof, today's roofs, which are made to eliminate all the rainwater, that would be the responsibility of both to fix. Takin Kuf Samach says the upstairs wants to fix. No, the answer is the downstairs also. The guy downstairs also has to be part of it because it protects him. It protects him also. So therefore, why is it Taka in Kuf Samach Daled we say that he doesn't have, that only the upstairs guy has to fix it? It's not because Medina, but they both have to, it's not because Medina it's his responsibility. Because Medina should be both of them his responsibility to fix it. Elamai, it's because that is the agreement between parties in such a building. In such a residence. I'm fixing downstairs, you're fixing upstairs. That's just the haskama between the two people who are there. The guy upstairs has to take care of whatever's upstairs. So therefore he says, also when it comes to Maziva, the responsibility of the guy upstairs in certain scenarios, and the guy upstairs has to fix it, is because that is the responsibility of the guy upstairs. Part of the agreement of the neighbors, part of the way the neighbors deal with it. And therefore, if heavy rains fall on this Maziva, he says, the person is Taka Potter. The guy downstairs is Potter because it's not Gira delay. I mean, the guy upstairs is Potter because it's not Gira delay. It's only going to be a problem if it's regular rains. And that is what is understood in Siman over here, in Siman Kuf Nun Hey. But in Siman Kuf Samach Daled, we're talking about that the maziva is not enough to absorb the water. And it's not usually gets absorbed in it. And therefore, since you did not do the perfect maziva to deal with the problem, so therefore it becomes like gira delay, and therefore you are obligated, the upstairs guy is obligated to fix it, but he concludes with a tzarich iyun. That is the way the Kesef HaKotchim explains the difference, and he also explains the logic of the Taz behind it. The Avnei Choshen says that the difference between the two is as follows. In Siman Kuf Samach Daled, who has Hanoah from the upstairs? Both, including the one upstairs, because otherwise he would have his whole house flooded. Therefore, he is responsible to fix it. When is he responsible to fix something in his floor? When he would suffer without having it. So therefore we tell him, you're enjoying it, you have to fix it. But over here we're talking about the guy upstairs has no damage, bichlal, from it. The rain is going off his property, but it's not damaging his property, it's just going off his property and going to the guy downstairs. So therefore, the Ramah holds over here, he has no hanoah from fixing it, so therefore he has no responsibility to fix it. It's not mitzat gira delay, because there is no gira delay in rainwater. Because that's the crucial problem over here. There's no gira delay in rainwater. If you don't follow the shit of the Rashba, there's no gira delay in rainwater. So how does it become the responsibility of the guy upstairs? If you follow the Rashba, you're fine. If you follow the Taz, you're fine. But if you follow logic, it's only gira delay, then what's the responsibility of the guy upstairs? So he says, stuck over here, there's no responsibility. Why is no responsibility? He has no hanoah from having, from fixing that the water shouldn't go to the guy downstairs. He has no hezek, and he has no hanoah from it. So it's not his responsibility. The guy downstairs, he has a problem with God's rain, so either move to a place that doesn't rain, or fix the problem. It's not the guy upstairs' problem that rain is falling off his roof into your house. The same thing is also in Pamayne Zav, it pretty much says the same idea. Nesivis takes a whole different approach to it. In Kuf Samach Daled, he doesn't explain it here. He says in Kuf Samach Daled, he tells you, and he explains it over there, and says that explains the difference between Kuf Samach Daled and what we learned earlier in Kuf Nun Hey. Because logic would dictate that really, when you have a stira, you should explain it after you learn the next one, rather than explaining it now. But Nesivis followed that logical approach. Kuf Samach Daled, he'll tell you, now you learned this one, so you have a problem with what you learned before, so I'll explain it to you here. So Kuf Samach Daled Sif Beis, he explains as follows. He says, it's somewhat of a combination of different approaches that we already discussed before, even though the Nesivis was before some of them. But the ideas that we discussed before are approached over here. He says, Kuf Samach Daled, we're talking about Dinei Shutfus, not Dinei Nezakim. Dinei Shutfus, we're talking about upstairs, downstairs. They're partners in this property, and they had an agreement between them. As part of their shutfus agreement, certain things are my responsibility, certain things are your responsibility. The guy upstairs is responsible for the roof, even though it belongs to both. And over here in Siman Kuf Nun Hey, we're talking about that there was never such an agreement between them. The roof is a roof that belongs to each one, but not a combined shutfus. One owns half a roof, one owns the other half of the roof. And the water is flowing through one guy's half. And he says, I don't want your water flowing through my pipes on my side of the roof. I'm going to take off the water that comes from your side. I'm going to take off the pipe that brings the water from your side to my side. And I want you to pay for it. So that's what the Kuf Samach Daled, the Kuf Nun Hey says. So Kuf Nun Hey says, you don't want to continue the existing system because you own half the roof, and you decided that my water should not go through, not my water, the water that falls on my side should not go through your side. So, and you want me to pay for it? So the answer is no, I don't have to pay for it. You want to take off the connection from my side of the roof to your side of the roof? That's fine. But whatever happens afterwards is your problem, not mine.
why is the Paul attacking the Shukot?
Ah?
Why is it attacking the Paul Shukot?
I can't hear you. Turn around. What?
Why is the Paul attacking the Paul Shukot?
Because that's how they own the house together.
He doesn't demand it.
No, they own. They agreed when they bought the house. It's a flat roof. It's a flat roof, right? So he has half, and he has half. One person wants to build a sukkah on his half, or store garbage over there. This roof space is something important. To have buildings which have roof spaces, it's something each one has a part. And then the Siva says, and this is what the Rivash is talking about. Because if you look at the Tshuva of the Rivash, specifically that was the case. That one guy wanted to take away the pipe that brought the water onto his half. So why do you have to go and find a bunch of different explanations? Look in the Rivash, who is the source of what the Ramah quotes in Kuf Nun Hey, and just take what he writes and you'll be fine. So then you don't have to find different explanations. There's no stira. Kuf Nun Hey is talking about a specific case, the Rivash. That's what the Ramah mentions, that it comes from the Rivash. So you could look in the Rivash and you could see what he's talking about. As a completely unrelated to this, but unrelated to this topic, but a general thing, there's a tshuva from the Tzemach Tzedek, which is printed originally in Piskei Dinim of the Mittler Rebbe and the Old Prince, between Chelik Yeridei and Chelik Even Ezer. It's two tshuvas from the Tzemach Tzedek. That was found in the same bichel as Piskei Dinim. Then it was reprinted in Yeridei, in Even Ezer, in the tshuvas, and it's about Ein L'Gvuras Anashim. A discussion about a get and L'Gvuras Anashim. And over there, the Rav Hashoyel wanted to base himself a specific way to get a get based on something from the Ramah in the Ramah. And the Tzemach Tzedek completely says, he says you can't pass him from Sifrei Kitzurim. What is he referring to Sifrei Kitzurim? The Mechaber and the Ramah. He says unless you learn the Beis Yosef with the Tur Beis Yosef and obviously the Darkei Moshe. So you can't pass him from it. And the Tzemach Tzedek then is Mechiach, that if you're going to learn the Tur Beis Yosef and the Darkei Moshe, this Ramah doesn't make sense. Right? So that means you can't just rely on what the Ramah writes over here and say, Kozehu v'Kadosh. You have to go back to the sources. So that's what Nesivus tells you the same thing over here. It says, you have a whole complication because you didn't actually open the Rivash that the Ramah is quoting. You would open the Rivash, you wouldn't have any problems. That each one has a half a roof, and one person is Eino Tzara, that the neighbor's roof, that the neighbor's water is falling onto his roof. Or you could, talking about Baal you could also explain it, that the one upstairs has a roof, that his water falls to the guy downstairs' roof. And it continues onto his gutter. The gutter goes passes through his roof. According to the Nesivus, and pretty much according to the Avnei Choshen, saying the similar logic, that the damages that have to be fixed is usually when does the upstairs one have to fix? When there's some kind of agreement between them. When do both have to fix? When it belongs to both equally and there's no agreement between them. When does the bottom one have to fix? When the guy downstairs is the only one that's getting damaged and the guy upstairs is not getting damaged. According to the Rosh, it depends if it's something which is standard. Tashmish kavua, usually you use it on a regular basis and you can't tell a person you can't continue using what you have to use, or it's not something which is like that. Knesses Agdeila in Hagoyes Hatur Sif Yud Gimel on this Siman and Kuf Nun Hey, he also gives an answer to the stira, and he says as follows: Siman Kuf Samach Dal is talking about where both parties want the roof to be fixed. He doesn't say, but l'chayr means it's damaging both, which fits into what we mentioned before. He's much earlier than the ones we mentioned. And then we say the guy upstairs has to fix. And over here we're talking about that the guy upstairs doesn't want to be involved in fixing it for them, probably because he's not having any damage from it. And then you can't, Bezdin doesn't have the koyach to be koy for the guy upstairs to fix, if he doesn't want to fix it. The guy upstairs has to be, the guy downstairs has to be marchikas atzmai.
So, all this discussion only talking about rainwater. Because if the water is coming from
Rainwater only.
the God himself,
That's different. Talking about only rainwater, the water comes from elsewhere, where water comes from God.
no, if it comes from himself, then everything started, then the whole discussion will start.
No, it's not. The whole yeah.
That's to fix it.
Except according to the Taz, who he says that everything, that's all the same. There's a Chasam Sofer on the Shulchan Aruch, and it's in these prints that you have, it's on the bottom of the page in the Ha'aris, it's called the Ha'aris. Kavitz and Forsham, I mean. Where he explains the difference as follows. Kuf Samach Daled, we're talking about a responsibility of fixing. We're talking about Kuf Samach Daled, where it says who's the question over there? Who's responsible to fix? Is it the upstairs guy has the responsibility to fix, or the downstairs guy has the responsibility to fix? And we say the responsibility of fixing is in the guy upstairs. And over here also, in Kuf Nun Hey, the responsibility is the same. It's also on the guy upstairs. If there's a problem in the roof, his responsibility is to fix it. But in Kuf Nun Hey, we're not discussing whose responsibility it is, who has to foot the bill. That's not what the argument is about. The argument is that the guy downstairs says the guy upstairs did not actually go and fix what he's supposed to fix. And he wants to recover damages. He says, I got damaged. I want to get payment for the damage that happened. So on that, the Ramah says, no, that you can't demand from him. The Nizak has to be marchikas atzmai. And then he discusses what happens when you have a building of 3 floors, what each person is responsible for, but you could look at it when you have a chance. Chasam Sofer. So now, let's go back to a similar discussion about a cracked pipe, but rather than the cracked pipe being in the floor and only damaging the guy downstairs, let's talk about a cracked pipe that is upstairs. The pipe bust. It was a winter, the pipe bust, which is a common thing. If you forgot to turn on the heat or whatever it is, or if it's really, really cold outside. And now water is spraying the whole upstairs, and from there it's going downstairs also. Later we're going to get to if somebody there's a clog. But let's first deal with this one. It's clear that he wasn't the one who caused the pipe to burst. If he caused the pipe to burst, it's a whole different category. But he didn't cause the pipe to burst. The pipe burst by itself. So you can't say it's good or delay. He didn't break the pipe. You can't say that it's you have to see who's responsible for it. So now, it's obvious that the person upstairs has to fix the pipe as soon as possible. And before he fixes the pipe, he has to close the water. And he has to fix it right away. Because otherwise, if he doesn't, at some point it's going to become gid or delay. Negligence becomes gid or delay, becomes a pshia. You have something which is damaging the other person. So when does it, and if he's home, so it happens that it becomes gid or delay much faster than if he's not home. If he's not home, he doesn't know about it. If he is home and he knows about it, he has to deal with it right away. And so the question is, what's the din of these first waters that popped out of this burst pipe that went and damaged the neighbor's house? Is he chayev for the damages that he caused downstairs? According to everybody, he's potter, right? Because it's not a pshia. He didn't do the damage with his own hands. It's similar to rainwater that came from elsewhere. And he didn't do something which will cause it. But according to the Rashba, and maybe also according to the Taz, you would have a problem. Why? Because the water came from the pipe and fell onto your floor. So it became your water. Yeah, and that shit of the Rashba is in Chelik Gimel Siman Kuf Pei Aleph, and it's quoted in the Beis Yosef in Siman Kuf Nun Gimel, and what's Mechudash Gimel, which is in this print is Tes with a number 2. What is talking about over there by the Rashba? The Rashba is talking about a case somebody wanted to build a gutter system. So all his rainwater from his roof is going to go into the neighbor's chaser where there's a wall, and it's going to cause damage to the wall. And he says aser, and he says why? Hamayim kol sheneflim begagah shel Shimon sheloihem umamoineihu shegagoy koineloi v'yochel hu lakdisham koidem sheyerdu v'kevan shekein mamoineihu shemazikoi shemekaleach al kos lo yumapiloi. So therefore, it's aser for him to do it, so it becomes his water. And he continues, even if it's not a full, even if it's a small rain, it just drop, drop, drop. The fact is, when I make a gutter and direct it over there, I'm causing that this drop, drop, drop is going to go concentrated onto the guy's wall. Yeah, which means that the Rashba comes up with an idea that you could be, your chatzar is kind of for you even shalei midaite, right? In this scenario. Which we know that is the din, but over here it's talking about something which you're not even interested in being kind of. I'm not going to go into the whole din of Chatzir Shalom Kainish, but there is such a concept. And over here the water is going through, is going on, and he absorbs it. So if you have a burst pipe and it fell onto your floor, so you were kind of it, and then it goes to the guy downstairs, it's also a problem. So therefore, according to him, the guy upstairs, according to the Rashba, the guy upstairs is always responsible because it's his water. He was kind of the water. So over here, when the burst pipe, is also going to be chayiv. What would be the only exception? If l'kuli alma he wasn't kind of the water. How we say he wasn't kind of the water? If the burst pipe is before the meter. Because the meter is when you kind of the water. Before the meter blew, the meter is inside the house and it's further in. So if it bursts before the meter, lav dafka, it's not your water. If it falls onto your floor, it is your water, according to the Rashba. But what happens if there's a clog and you didn't take care of the clog? A toilet or a sewer or a
Everyone agrees with the Rashba?
Nobody agrees with the Rashba. The Rashba is not quoted, not in the Mechaber and not in them. This Rashba is not mentioned. I mean, nobody holds that you're kind of the water like that. That's what the whole discussion about rainwater. If it will fall like the Rashba, there'll be no question about it. You're always chayiv. So you have a bathtub and you didn't take care of the bathtub drain, or you have a toilet and the toilet is clogged, and now there was a flood because of that, and it went downstairs. So then it becomes much more of a responsibility of the guy upstairs. Still not gira delay, but still not always gira delay, but it still becomes his responsibility. And then the only thing would be if it's a regular usage or it's not such a regular usage. According to the ones that say that it's chayev for that he's potter. If it's just a little bit of water and regular usage and it's not such a big hezek and it doesn't cost so much to fix, he'll be potter. And if the people hold that he's chayev, then he would be chayev in such a scenario. Now we'll move to Sif Hey. I think just finish Sif Hey, maybe Sif Zayin also. Sif Hey says as follows: you have to distance the zroim and the machresha and the plowing away from the wall 3 tfachim. The Smeh explains in Sifkot and Yutes that both of them have the same reason why you have to be marchik them. Why? Zroim make the earth around the wall weak. And the machresha also, when it plows, when you dig, when you plow, you also make the earth around the dig, which that weakens the wall next to it. And if it weakens the wall next to it, you're going to cause damage to your neighbor. And the Smeh says, mashma from here, that whether you did machresha without planting, you only plowed without planting, or you planted without plowing, that means you just threw seeds like they throw seeds on the ground, you have to be marchik this harchaka from it. And he says there's no difference whether the wall is made from avanim or the wall is not made from avanim. And according to that, you have to be careful and this is not the smell, I'm just telling, according to that, you have to be careful when somebody plants a vegetable patch. You shouldn't be too close to his neighbor. But a tree is a whole different thing, because a tree, until the roots crack through, is a whole different ma'aseh. Siflan at base, you're going to get to it, that it's considered a grama, it's not considered right away, because it takes time till the roots go down, and then the roots start breaking through. It's a whole different din. Over here, the Nesivis, not here, the Nesivis Sifkot and Ches, which is on Sif Tes, says that what the Smeh says, that there's no difference between Koisel Avonim and Koisel Shalavenim when it comes to here, is Tamoa, because there is a Yesodus Diga Machlekes about Koisel Shalavonim versus Koisel Shalavenim, which one is going to have an effect. And he says that he doesn't understand the Smeh, and he goes into a whole discussion. Avonim is stronger. Levanim is always the Archaka by Avonim is that's a machlekes. If you have to be marchik by Avonim or not, it's in Siftes. The Ktsas over here in Sifkot and Dalet brings the Ramban, that why is it that by Zroim you have to be marchik right away, as opposed to trees? Because Zroim, they start absorbing from the earth right away when they're planted. So therefore they're causing the earth to get weaker right away, and therefore it's mamash gira delay. And even it's not the same as plowing. Plowing, your mamash doing with your own hands. But planting without plowing, why is planting with the Ramban? So why is planting without plowing also aser? Because it grows, these vegetables or these zroim start absorbing from the earth right away, and they already cause the earth to be weak around this wall. The Nesivis over here, Biurim Sifkot and Hay, says the same thing. The only question that I have about all these Koisel Shlavonim and everything else is, does it apply today also? When it comes to these kinds of hezekas, when you have foundations going down below the earth, which are much stronger, and putting Zroim next to it is not going to cause, or even plowing a little bit on top, when you have 6 feet, 7 feet going into the ground, is that going to be machlish? Because over there we're talking about that people used to build right above, on top of the earth. They didn't go down. That's the whole discussion about dafsha also, that you had to walk around to make sure that the earth is tight around the wall. Today you anyways dig down and you put a foundation. So yes, if you're going to do something, you're going to dig all the way down below the foundation, you have a problem. But if it's right next to it, lav dafka, that should be a problem. I'm not sure about this one, and I guess it depends on what kind of thing you're doing, or what kind of foundation the other person has. When his foundation was built, how deep his foundation is, it's something which has to be discussed when it comes up in front of you. In Seif Zayin. Which is? By Avon, the question is how much Archaka do you have to do by Avon? Yes, today you don't have to. But again, it would depend on what the scenario is. But Avonim is different than Levanim. And today it could be the foundations are made from Levanim. I have no idea. My foundations are made from Avonim. That I know. But I don't know about other houses, how they're made. In Seif Zayin it says that when you have mills that grind flour, you have to distance them from the wall. And other examples also 3 tfachim because of the vibrations that it's going to cause, or that the noise is going to cause hezek. That means the sound waves will also cause some kind of hezek to the wall. And the Rama adds that if it's bigger mills, you need more. Bigger stones, you need more, because it still causes vibrations. And if you didn't,
Close to the wall or to the person?
huh?
The
To the wall, huh?
The line is referring to the wall?
The wall, all to the wall.
Usually the line of a Chayim.
Yeah, the wall. So I understood it.
The wall's getting scared.
It's not going to get scared. It causes shaking of some sort. Could be it's not, but that's how I understood it. And if you did not do the harchaka and you were mazik, then the dayanim have to make a determination how much he has to pay. And the same thing is in other nezikim. For example, if other nezakim that they hit things, etc. Like when they're sewing and the machines make zetzes on the ground. And over here it says if you weren't marchik and you were mazik, you're chayiv. The Shulchan says based on this that if it's mashma, that if you were marchik and you still caused the hezek, you potter. Why? Because the Rambam says imloi hirchik v'hezek. And the chayla is based on we already know from the Shulchan we discussed in the past that harchaka is depending on the situation. If you did the proper harchaka and then a hezek came out afterwards, then you are potter. And if you were marchik, but you weren't marchik enough, then you're chayiv. So that's the Aruch HaShulchan which we discussed in the past. And today you have machinery with that does vibration, so you have to distance it as much as it shouldn't cause any vibrations, which we're going to see later in Seif Tezvav, how much distance you have to do. And if you look in Seif Lamed Gimel, that says, the Mechaber over there says that Yesh Misha Omer, that if you were not marchik and you were still mazik, you're potter. The Sivis over there in Sifkat Yud Zayin says that over there it's not gira delay. That's why if you were not marchik and you were mazik, you're potter. But over here, even that Yesh Misha Omer would be moida. Why? Because over here it's mamash gira delay. By the vibrations you're doing actual, so even if you were not marchik and you actually did the hezek, you're still chayiv. And over there, and then I'm talking about in the Sivis and Biurim Sifkat Yud Zayin on Seif Lamed Gimel says that those Seif Lamed Gimel is not gira delay, but over here the examples from Seif Zayin are gira delay.